Hi, this is Abul Hussain, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we talk about how you can start or scale your digital marketing agency. And we also bring on subject matter experts who share their expertise that will help you to deliver better results for your clients. Now, if you are watching this episode outside of our Facebook group, make sure to find the link above or below this video, or go to smmamastermind.com, especially if you are in the agency community. Now, with that out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me all the way from Boston in the US. She is a digital marketing consultant for health, spiritual, and leadership coaches. And today we are going to talk about how coaches can use digital marketing tactics and strategies to improve your practice, to attract more clients, to get your message out there. With that, Genevieve, Kohn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abul. It's great to be with you today.
Thank you very much for joining me. Now, for the viewers who might not have come across you before, how about a little bit of an introduction?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I am a digital marketer for health and sometimes life, spiritual and leadership coaches. And the reason why I started doing that is because I have a health and spiritual coach background myself and life coach background. So I love to help those coaches to grow their online presence through digital marketing.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing that for? How did you actually get into this digital marketing niche?
That's a great question. I've actually had several different businesses over the years, and there was one common denominator. It was about online marketing. So I was able to develop, I guess you could say, a kind of an expertise or a knowledge base about what is effective and what isn't. So it was really quite fortuitous the way it all came together.
Right. Okay. And looking at your work with coaches, when you start working with coaches, I mean, what issues do you usually see that are quite common when coaches are trying to market themselves online?
Usually what I see the most is that they just don't know where to start, let alone how to get to the next level, get to the next point in their business. So I'm hearing a lot, just about every client I've ever had says, I don't know how to begin. I don't know what I need to do for my business. And depending on the business, I tend to sculpt a specific solution for them. So that's what's great about how I get to work with them, is it's really dependent on where they are now and where they want to go. And it goes through specifically for them, for the type of person they are, for the type of business they have, and the type of business that they want to have. So it's actually a very fun way to work with folks.
Mm-hmm. And the coaches that usually approach you, are they quite new to the coaching industry, or do they tend to be more established and they have a base of clients and they want to, expand their practice through digital marketing?
I usually have a mix. Usually there's a common denominator in that they're new in digital marketing. In other words, let's say they had an established practice where they were seeing clients face to face. However, especially lately with everything that's going on with COVID, there are so many people that need to pivot their businesses into an online one so they can continue to serve their clients and they can do it the most effectively. And then, of course, to get more clients as well, should they wish to do that.
Mm-hmm. And how do most of your clients actually find you? I mean, how do you, as a consultant, market yourself?
That's a great question. How I usually do it is a couple of ways. I do it through social media. I'm active on LinkedIn and Facebook mainly, once in a while Twitter, but not really that often. And I tend to meet up with folks that way. I also have people that are coaches that I have known for a while because of my past experience in different businesses. For example, I had an energy healing and massage business at one point, which actually has quite a bit of coaching in there, believe it or not. So I have known some people from that when I had my own office space where I was doing it one-on-one. So it's been really fun because I've had about 10 years of experience now in, not only working with clients, but also in working with people that are in my field. And I love to collaborate and cross promote.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you mentioned that one of the things or one of the issues that most coaches face when they're trying to be a bit more digital is they don't know where to start. So where should they start?
That's a great question. Where I usually advise that folks start is they can either start on their own or they can start with me. So I can take them through or really just do it for them. If they just say, I've had actually quite a few coaches that have come to me and say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't even want to do it. I don't want to learn. I don't want to know. So that's when I take them through it personally. If there is sometimes a coach who comes to me and says they want to learn how to do it, then I usually kind of point them towards my new book.
Right. Okay.
And then
we've come to the book in a second. So when you start working with someone, what's the expectation? You know, what journey do you take them on?
That's a great question. Really, like I mentioned, it's kind of tailored towards the individual. But generally, what I do is I find out with them really who they are, what kind of business they have, what kind of business they want. And I say, okay, then I go through, do you have a website? And one doesn't always need a website, by the way. One can actually build quite a good community, even on social media. But having a website is a great central way for people to know about you if you're a coach and you're marketing. So I make sure they, if they don't have a website, maybe they want to get one, and I help them with that. I'm not really an expert website builder per se. I can build basic websites on WordPress. What I really love to do is to help them with that, and also through social media. So are they present on at least one social media network or channel? One does not really need to be on more than one. Sometimes that's just how it works. For example, like I mentioned before, I'm mostly on Facebook and LinkedIn. If one just wanted to choose one or the other, that would be fine as well. And I also make sure that they have some kind of email marketing going. So whether they are not yet on email marketing, I can help them get started with that. Because email marketing, and I'm sure you know this, Abul, I bet you've had guests who have said this before, email marketing is a great way to really get personal with members of any kind of community that one wants to set up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of your approach, are you doing most of the activities organically, or do you implement paid strategies as well?
I can implement paid strategies, but I find that, especially the coaches that I work with and where they're starting, that organic actually works very well. Now, the trick with organic is it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So what I usually do is, I'm sure you know that, Abul, I can tell by your smile.
I hear this all the time from coaches, you know.
Exactly, that's nothing new, right? So what I usually do is I have clients work with me for at least 3 to 6 months, because if one were to just work with me for, let's say, 1 month, it's going to be very difficult to get really the data that we need to see, okay, how much are you growing? How many people have you reached out to? You know, how many new clients have you gotten? It's very difficult to do. So I recommend at least a 3 to 6 month period. And some clients select to stay on with me longer.
Mm-hmm. And when you're doing that evaluation at the end of the 3 or 6 month period, what are the kind of KPIs that you look together at with your clients? I mean, are we talking about sales revenue? Are we talking about reach, influence? You know, what are the numbers that keep your clients happy?
Yeah, the KPIs that they really are interested in, of course, they want to know how many sales they make, but usually they already keep track of that pretty well themselves, because they are, you know, entrepreneurs, or they are solopreneurs, I should say. Usually the KPIs that they're interested in is the growth in followers, the amount of engagement, and the quality of engagement. You know, is it just likes? Is it just follows? Is it comments? You know, are they actually developing a dialogue so that they get to know, you know, the coaches, and that the coaches get to know their audience? Or how personal is it? And so the KPIs required there are really pretty basic, like the ones I just mentioned. And especially when they're doing email marketing, the KPIs, of course, we want to make sure that the amount of subscribers is growing. We want to make sure that there's nobody that has an email that is bounced. Nobody that, of course, you want to have as little unsubscribers as possible. So yeah, it's really basic stuff. And what I love about it is it's not complicated at all. And you get to literally go from point A to point B. And what I usually do is per month, I report to the clients. I send them a report of their, all their statistics.
Right. And I hear this from a lot of coaches as well, that some have built followers or they've got a group, whether it be on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that, but they get no engagement. How do you tackle a challenge like that, where a coach might have a base of some sort, even if it's random people who have joined the group or like their page, but they're not getting the engagement that they want?
Engagement is really a tricky thing, Abul. I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure there have been other guests that have said that as well. Engagement is, of course, a KPI that we definitely want to keep track of, and it is important. However, just because somebody's not liking or commenting or sharing doesn't mean they're not watching you, doesn't mean they're not out there. I've had clients, a couple of them come to me recently, actually, that I didn't even realize were even reading my posts, let alone engaging with them. So that's really what I tell people. Now, if you get good engagement, of course, that's a great KPI, those are great KPIs, I should say, that you want to follow. However, I wouldn't hit the panic button if you're not getting the engagement you want, because it's trending lately, especially I'd say in the last decade, or no, not decade, I'm sorry, in the last couple of years, that people are just in general not engaging as much.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, you're right. A lot of people, and I get the same as well, as you can appreciate, must be the same across the board, where there are lurkers who see your content, they will not hit like, they will not comment, but when they need something, they just pop up in your inbox. Now you mentioned you've written a book, and thank you for sending the copy. I actually read it when I was on vacation. So tell us a bit more about this book and how it came about.
I was looking for a way to reach out to more people to help them, because like I mentioned before, when I start working with a client, or even before that, before we decide to work together, they just feel lost about what to do as coaches, because most coaches are solopreneurs. So they don't have usually the resources. They don't even know where to look to find the resources that they're looking for. So I ended up writing this small book about 5 habits of highly effective online marketers, changing your coaching business from unknown to in demand. And the 5 habits are generally about social media, about your website, like I mentioned before.
Yeah, social media, we've got website.
Yes, social media, website. Isn't it funny, off the top of my head, even though it's my book, when I'm in front of the camera, I'm like, I don't remember my book. So see, and this is, yeah, and well, what's great about this is actually when I mess up like this, which I do often, people are like, okay, well, she's messing up, but she's still in business. So, hey, it still works,
She's
right?
human.
Exactly. So, right, exactly. So we definitely have those things that you mentioned, the website, and that includes, I have a little bit about SEO there too, which is really interesting. And basically, let's see, having a, I'm sorry?
No, I do have your book somewhere here, but carry on, please.
Oh, sure. So about your website, and then the next chapter after that, I do apologize for this because I really need to have, and also about web content as well. What you're actually putting on the web is very important. And a way to kind of have a game plan, which includes social media, which includes your website. And how do you put it all together to have a plan that works for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got your PDF open here. So chapter 1 is about you need to have the game plan. Chapter 2 is about why social media is necessary. Chapter 3 is all about the website. Chapter 4 is about content, and now chapter 5 is about activating your game plan. So let's very quickly touch upon all of these kind of topics very quickly. I know we'll give viewers an opportunity to go and download your book as well. Um, you've got to have a game plan. What's that all about?
When somebody is looking to market, you don't want it to be a situation where you're just throwing stuff against the wall and see what's going to stick. One wants to have a plan so that you will go from point A to point B. For example, if you are going somewhere new, you want to grab your phone, right? And get your GPS going, get it mapped out. It's the same thing. You want to have your strategy mapped out. So that's why the game plan is so important.
Right, okay. And in terms of actually mapping the strategy, is it like do it on a sheet of A4 paper, like a kind of a bubble chart, or kind of does someone need to actually know everything in great detail and have pages and pages worth of a strategy paper written?
Thank goodness, no, that's my job. What I would do when I meet with a client is we write down the goals, we write down where they are, like I mentioned before, and we write down what strategies are going to work most effectively. I always recommend the ones in my book because they're very simple. And what we do then is we start to set up some statistics, a way to track everything. And so from month to month, I'm able to get onto the client's either social media channel or their website and take a look at this is where we've started, this is where we've ended up. And like I mentioned, once a month, I will send a report to the client so they can see themselves how they've grown.
Okay, so you've got your game plan. The next thing that you need to do is get your social media in order. What's the core components of having an effective social media plan?
An effective social media plan really has to be about your audience. If in order to connect with your audience, you need to post content, and that's chapter 4 as well, web content. You need to post content that they're going to be interested in. Because if you have something random that is not going to catch their eye, then they're not going to stick around. So that's really important to specify or tailor your content so that it reaches the client. And what I love to do, let's say in my Facebook group, is I love to find out what they're really interested in. So I'm about once a week, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is with time periods, they're leaving my head. Once a week, I get on Facebook Live and I reach out to the people in my group. And I find out where they are when I do get some engagement. So, and there are times where I get a new member and I'll reach out because I'll say, I haven't heard from you for a while. And I'll reach out through Facebook message. And I found out specifically how to help them, because as important as it is to get your KPIs all set up and monitored, what people really want the most is personal connection, especially these days, because we're very often kind of isolated from each other.
No, that makes total sense. And then you also mentioned in your book that you should have a website over an online business card. And you mentioned, obviously, you do some of that work for someone, but websites these days isn't a LinkedIn profile enough?
I think it depends on the business. A LinkedIn profile often can be enough. However, if one really wants to show off, so to speak, or market one's personal or individual abilities, individual reaching out, so to speak, to their ideal clients, LinkedIn is a great way, but a website is more personal. And what's great about a website is you can have more than one thing on there. You can have your blog on there. You can have, if you have more than one social media channel, it's kind of like a central hub of everything about your business where people can find out about you.
Mm-hmm. And these websites, I mean, how fancy and how complex do they need to be? Because obviously you can have a very basic website that you use a builder like Wix or something like that. And then on the higher end of the higher end consultants, you know, the Tony Robbins of the world, they have really kind of, you know, flashiness and really super websites. I mean, how, where should most coaches find themselves between something that's really basic and looks like it's from the 90s and something that's super flashy?
In my opinion, one does not need a super flashy, high-tech website, because what people are looking for is information. They don't really care so much if there's, you know, something where, you know, you go to hover over it and it starts moving at you, you know, or something that has, what's the term I'm looking for? Parallax, you know, where it's like in the back, which is really pretty and really nice. But I mean, most people don't really care about that from my experience. They want something simple. So if they want me to build them a website, I do it in the simplest way possible. I'll do it on Wix or WordPress. Most of the time, though, if I have a client that comes to me about their website, it's because they want me to update what they already have. Right. And that I can do. Websites are a great way, like I mentioned, to really centralize all your information as a business. However, it's not something that really has to be flashy, because it's, in my opinion, it kind of very often almost takes away from the substance of it, which is what people want to know when they go to your website is, how can you help them? Mm-hmm. So if it's flashy, it doesn't really matter, because how is that going to help them?
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And moving on to web content, what kind of content should coaches be putting out there to kind of effectively engage or get their message out?
In order to get their message out, I would think that coaches just need to find out what is really important to their audience. For example, if one is a health coach, perhaps they're looking to lose weight. Perhaps they're just looking to get in better shape. Or perhaps they're looking to become more athletic. So it really depends on what the audience is specifically looking for. On my Facebook group, I have a variety of things that I post. Usually I post at least once a day. I post depending on what day it is of the week. For example, today is Talk About It Tuesday in my Facebook group. At night, I tend to post at least once a day, but if I post twice, I'll also post something else. Let's say Talk About It Tuesday on a Tuesday evening. I'll post a great article that I found on the web that can relate to them. So it's really about, what are they interested in? What do they want to see? And if they're not sure what they want to see, then I'll post something and I will see if is there any engagement on it at all. And like I mentioned, engagement it's not going to make or break your business. However, it's one of those, a few of those KPIs, I should say, that is a really good gauge of how you are reaching your audience. And like I mentioned, it's not going to happen just in the first month. So it takes at least a few months.
Right. And in terms of kind of posting content, are we talking about posting on social media, or are we talking about writing articles and blog posts and the full shebang, creating videos for YouTube?
Any of that content would do just fine, especially when, and I think it's actually a good thing if you mix it up a little bit. So yes, you can. I do sometimes post videos that I've already made, or sometimes my Facebook Live is the video. I also blog. I don't blog really regularly, but I have, a pretty decent amount of blog posts. What I really love about that is it gives the audience a variety of ways to connect with you. I just love that because I have some of my clients and some of my prospective clients, one, for example, will comment on my blog. Another one will, like one of my posts. One will comment. And like I mentioned before, if there's somebody who has been a member of my Facebook group, say for a while, and I've really never heard from them, I'll reach out and I'll see how they're doing. And, from there, we strike up a conversation and see if perhaps I can help them. And if they're just there for the free content, that's fine too.
Awesome. No, that makes total sense. Now, the fifth, I suppose, pillar or fifth step is to activate the game plan. What does that involve?
Activating the game plan is really finding the resources that one is going to require to put it all together. For example, if you're going to be posting on a regular basis, social media, you'll probably want to pre-schedule your posts. So you'll want to get an app or a website that does that. That's basically about activating, is about getting the tools to do everything. So like I mentioned, it was about, it's about posting. It's about, if you have a blog, how do you do that? For example, is that on your website? Do you have a whole different blog post site like Blogger? So it's about getting the resources that one needs that not only are going to be the simplest, but the most effective. And very often the resources, I think really the simplest is best. As far as most effective, I think doing these things regularly is what's really the most effective. For example, I don't blog on a regular basis. If I did, I'd probably personally get better results. However, I have clients that I get in other ways that I described before.
Yeah, I suppose, it's people are going to engage with the medium that they're most active on. If they prefer videos, they'll watch videos. If they prefer to read, they'll read content, etc. Now, we are very fast running out of time. These conversations always go very quickly. So if someone wants to find out more about you or to read your book, where's the best place for them to reach you on?
The best place is probably, let's see, as far as my book goes, it's bit.ly /5 habits in demand. That's how you find out more about my book. bit.ly /5, and that's the number 5 habits in demand. You can also reach me on my website, which is innerpowermedia.com.
Okay, and I'm guessing you're very active on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Do you have like a Facebook group that you direct people to usually?
My Facebook group is called Social Media for Coaches. So if you just look that up, it's nice and simple.
Like Ron Seal?
I do. I'm sorry?
Like Ron Seal does, as it says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I like I mentioned before, for other things, the simpler the better.
No, absolutely. Well, on that note, Genevieve, Kohn, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much. I really appreciated this.